And welcome. Today we've got Rod still with us, where we are going to be discussing the updates of currency revaluations, wealth transfer, rates, and also some history on, the currency revaluations, why they would happen. And also we'll be doing some questions that the people have been asking. Now, just before we begin, I would like for all to subscribe to my Telegram channel and to also nicholasveniamin.com, which is my new platform that will be going live in the next couple of weeks. Yay. And for we the people, exactly. So, Rod, how are you?
I'm doing good, my friend. And I just wanted to say that this is an unquestionable historical event between you and me today, because outside of Jesus Christ and those that he raised from the dead in the Bible, you are the first person since then I know that has resurrected from the dead. And so I'm so grateful that you have done that and come to us.
I have.
You're looking wonderful for a resurrected being.
Really? Is that true? I just want to, sorry.
I was just going to say, I got to say, though, I'm a little bit hurt that you picked Charlie over me.
Listen, I'm an individual, independent guy, and I listen to everyone. I give everyone a platform, and I let the people to decide. I just question them. Just because I question them or I do interviews with them doesn't mean I agree or disagree with them. It's up to the people to decide, and that's what this platform is for democracy and for people to decide. We do not enforce any information to the people like the mainstream media does.
Yeah, and the people need to understand that what was true when it was said or when it was recorded may not be true by the time it's aired. So this is a very fluid situation. Things change a lot. I know that you've got other people backed up and waiting in line right behind me, and so I'm going to try to get onto this. I do want to explain that I'm not in my patriotic gear today. I'm in something a little more press colorful, and that's because as soon as I get up here, I'm driving across town and joining a baby shower for my daughter, who is pregnant with twins. We expect those to deliver late April, early May, depending on when they choose to take them. But for people that have questioned me how they're doing, it seems that they're about 4.5 pound-ish in there somewhere, and seem to be doing great. Mom's doing great. She's getting the Dickens kicked out of her constantly, and so she's in a lot of pain. But I'm big as a barn.
Well, listen, I want to say congratulations to you as a father, and also to your daughter, who's, as a father and also as a grandfather, may I say.
Ooh. I can't be that old.
You're not a grandfather yet, are you?
No.
Okay. But you will be next month, right?
I guess. And I told my kids earlier, before I ever knew this was coming up, I said, okay, I'm putting a freeze on y'all's birthdays. From this point forward, you're not getting any older. And they said, well, what's the deal with that? I said, because the math won't be right. If I keep telling people how old I want them to think I am, then they'd be able to figure it out if you got any older than you are now. Okay. So, just as I jokingly came to Nick's defense on the crap that was put out about him, but that actually worked in your favor, because you gained 4,000 more followers because of that.
Something like that. I didn't take that much notice, but yeah, it wasn't really nice,
Okay.
But it is what it is. It doesn't matter. It's part of it, isn't it? We're fighting the deep state.
And that was kind of fun, really, because the people that knew, unless they were initially shocked, which I was when I first saw it. So I was glad that somebody corrected that. But at the same time, there's also people out there. There's a lot of politics involved in this. And as I said, it's very fluid. It changes constantly. And most people don't know. I've deliberately flown under the radar for years, just as part of that, and partly because I was told to on certain topics. And I try to stay away from those. But in that process, I get a little bent out of shape when all these people are demanding their dates and times and so forth. And they really don't seem to care about the process that's gone on literally for decades to get us to where we are today, close as we seem to be. And with that said, I personally know people who have died around the world. You can't say how, because the way they died was so undeterminable. And as an example, there were like 3 attorneys, one here in the US and 2 in other parts around the world, one in Europe. And all 3 of them were all doing the same job toward the progression of the programs being released. And all 3 died at exactly the same time around the world, and all 3 equally mysteriously. Now, you tell me that's natural. You know, one of the guys that was my personal good friend down in Beaumont, Texas, was a senior, he was the national sales director for the Tesla energy components that they had displayed all around the United States in stadiums, and had thousands of people come to witness it. And it was about the size of a normal air conditioning compressor for your normal house. And it would literally, it used the Tesla technology to suck the energy out of the atmosphere, and it would run a box that size, about a 2,500 square foot home, endlessly with power left over. And they were going to make it available. And I had a contract for one. I still got a copy of it that showed where I was going to receive one of these. And they said, well, and so of course, you know, politics and big business blocked it. And they said, well, we'll just give them away. And so I was expecting mine. Well, I didn't hear from my friend for a couple of weeks. And so I started investigating, and I followed up with him, and I got in touch with family. And they said, well, he passed away mysteriously in his home. The coroner thinks it was a couple of weeks ago before anybody found him. And so he mysteriously disappeared. And then I tried to follow up line to the guy that I knew that owned the company, and he had disappeared. His phones were gone. There was no record of where anything transferred to. The company was shut down. It just like it never happened, you know. And so and now the reason I brought all that up was as a prelude to the man I'm going to try to defend now is Michael Cotrell. And he's been low on the radar too, but he's done a lot behind the scenes. And there's people that have been associated with him that are basically kind of blackballing him, and even called out that he needed to be done away with and such. And were it not for him, we wouldn't be getting this. And so that doesn't seem to come up in a lot of the rest of part of the people that discuss these things. But he's very much a key figure. And I wanted to give some background on that if I could, and kind of bring people up to speed and help them realize what people have done so that they can enjoy all this. Okay?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. So a little of this is going to sound unnecessary, but I'm trying to give you a background as to what led up to where he is today. And so back in 1989, Michael Cotrell developed a portfolio system that was financial in order to help the Ohio Affordable Housing Program. And HUD endorsed it and tried to do it in Youngstown. They later filed to operate Niagara Securities Incorporated, a securities broker dealer, as a joint venture with the Pennsylvania Affordable Housing Program. The city council okayed it, but said it needed to be collateralized and in order to get it started. And so that was in late 1990. In 1991, he went to Switzerland and set up several Swiss bank accounts in London and other locations. And the Saudi backers that were involved backed out because they thought it was too risky. So this went on to 1995, and he went to Scotiabank and met with the managers of a trading desk there. In 1996, he was approached by the Admiral Commander Lee Morris to be involved in the Chinese families in the sale and hypothecation of precious metals and in cash boxes. And it ended up, Nick, being 36 metric tons of gold and another 6,000 metric tons of platinum. And they needed an outside entity to enter into a letter of intent arrangement. And Michael issued that and entered into contract phase. And that took him into 1997 with the Republic of China. Between 2000 and 2001, he was the secretary trustee of the Del Mar Checker Trust, which is a $500 million trust out of Annapolis, Maryland. And Olin Metals, who's an OSS military guy, was brought in to coordinate the money from this World War II era. Now, Michael became the trustee of the Del Mar Trust and was appointed by Mr. Nettles to recover his daughter's family's inheritance from the U.S. Treasury. Through the Office of Foreign Asset Control, OFAC, he submitted documents making it official and to the Bush White House in 2002. And this was known as the Cheney package. In 1990, going back a little, Michael had a partner, Mark Reynolds, who through his various operations with Bush Sr. ended up stealing Michael Cotrell's company and name and worked directly for Bush Sr. In 2002, he was working with Commander Wilcox, who you've seen the videos of, I'm sure. In 2005, he was introduced to Leo Wanta. And I have Leo's book. He's on Twitter. You can follow him. And they've created a consortium who all had a copy of his thesis on their desk. And in March of 2006, he was interviewed by Chris Story for 3 or 4 days and described how this financial system worked. From 2006 to February 2010, Michael co-wrote articles with Chris Story explaining the workings of the financial programs and explained how the precious metals of the Chinese families were stolen by Bush Sr. 2007 to 2008, Leo Wanta brought Michael into his Ameritrust group as an executive vice president and secretary. Now, he, being Michael, formed a lot of the documentation that Leo used to convince the entities who supposedly held 4.5 trillion in his name to release it and let them do the revaluation at that point. Michael was not aware then that a lot of that 4.5 trillion was actually his. These problems developed because every time they wanted an institution to release it, they wouldn't, because they knew as soon as the money went into the account that Michael, with his Series 24 securities license, would know where it came from and who had it. And that was on Michael and Leo Wanta's, and they had nothing to do with it. And that would cause big problems for Bush Sr. You know, Sr. was the one who often said, if the people knew what we've done, they'd string us up from a tree. And so in 2008, Michael was fired from Ameritrust because he wanted oversight, and Chris Story and Michael had different perspectives on who had financial control versus Leo. Now, from 2008 to 2010, he was working with Chris Story. Michael submitted 4 affidavits to the Queen of England, but they were diverted to 10 Downing Street, and she never saw them. And so they went around another route, and they did get it to the Queen, and things started to happen at this time. In March of 2010, Chris died from a fast cancer that Michael believes malevolence was involved. In 2011, the documents were submitted, the affidavits, to the World Court as her defense from the Chinese families wanting their money from that hearing. And they adopted Michael Cotrell's plan to revalue and distribute the now $6.2 trillion. And he, Michael, was included in the transition of the G20 and G7. It happened in November 11. And Interpol found the money that Bush stole at the European Allied Command account, and in it, under Michael Cotrell's name, he believed it was 300 trillion at that time. And they tried to send it back to the States. for distribution to Michael, and it was stolen again, and by Bush Sr. and Bill Clinton coming out of Chase. They redirected it, and Interpol told Michael that it would be recovered and he would receive it all back, including interest, fines, and penalties under the law of equity. Now, in 2013, the Gold Dragon Chinese families organized, this is where we've heard about it, 209 countries and territories that signed the Gold Treaty as we know it now. And in that Gold Treaty, Michael was designated the person to receive the codes that would unlock the locks on the gold bullion that was being used to finance all currencies around the world that would be gold-backed and go into the QFS system. This was on March 21st of 2013. In 2016, Michael was advised the protocols were written in stone and would not change. So in order to execute the gold treaty, they had to come to Michael to release into the New Republic Treasury in Reno, Nevada. And at that point, all the gold would be released to finance the reset. There are other gold assets, but Michael is only involved in the currency reset. Once those codes are put in, immediately all fiat dollars around the world will have a time period of approximately 30 days or so to be changed to the gold-backed currency. If it's already in your bank, it will be done automatically. Additionally, as soon as Michael puts the codes in, all derivatives around the world will be zeroed out of the bank immediately through the Bank of International Settlements. Now, the BIS has been cleaned up by Interpol through this gold treaty, and as a result of the derivatives being wiped off the boards, there will be a worldwide debt jubilee immediately. Once the derivatives are off the board, you have no debts and no way to pay because there is no debt. There's no way to receive the money because it was all based on fiat money. With the QFS, you have the source of funds and use of funds, and they will see these debts no longer exist and won't let any transactions happen. You'll have parity around the world. Every currency will be equal to the next, and it will all be done automatically. July 12th of 2019, there was a meeting in Cleveland with the generals and the White Dragon elders at the time, and they met with a fake Michael Cotrell and gave 11 bags of gold dust worth about $50 million, thanked the fake one for his efforts and gave him a gold certificate for $4.5 trillion, which had been in the treasury. And at that point, it was cashed. Well, the real Michael Cotrell wasn't there. So when Interpol said, where's the gold codes on a Friday night? And they weren't there. So by Sunday night at 10 p.m., Interpol stopped the transaction cold. And then later in October of 2019, Michael submitted a 7.5 pound package of 300 documents to President Trump, laying out the history as well as Michael Cotrell's affidavits, and asked Trump to sign off on the release of the codes and let him know that it was a fake Michael Cotrell at the prior meeting. Now, as a result of this, Leo Wanta was brought into the White House by the military with weapons drawn, and Leo was subjected to one of the most severe grillings he's ever had and told to go home, sit down, and shut up, or go to Gitmo. And from that point on, things have started to change dramatically. Also, from military sources, we know that on November of 2019, Trump signed off over to the military with the Chinese families the authority to close down the U.S. corporation and to allow the gold treaty to be executed at some point in the future and to allow the RV to take place. So basically, Michael helped the Chinese Gold Dragon families and Shanghai Checks operations achieve something they had tried since the early 1950s. And that was to take their gold in cash boxes, which were like 6 feet by 2 feet by 2 feet, full of cash and precious metals. And there were thousands of these boxes, and to turn them into real money. They were off balance sheet until that time, and there was no way to actually do that. And through Michael's involvement and being named as a principal authority, he was able to help them, which had been considered contraband up to that point. And so the Gold Dragons had been trying to make this RV happen since 2007 and wanted to make the payment to Michael Cotrell personally. As a result of that effort, it was important that Michael be included in the Gold Treaty as a reward, and was chosen as the poster boy by Bush Sr. And Michael refused to do his dirty work for him. And for these reasons, he was included in the Gold Treaty. Now, he was the uncorruptible American. And his book he's working on now, when it comes out, we'll explain that in detail. And he was one of the four horsemen referred to by the Treasury Department. There was Leo Wanta, Bill Bonte, Commander Wilcox, and Michael. The other three all worked for Bush Sr., and one by one, they all helped Bush Sr. continue the U.S. corporation. As of August 2013, the G7 meeting held in Russia and got together in St. Petersburg for the Moscow Agreement said there are no more four horsemen, it's only Michael Cotrell. And Bush Sr. was just a master manipulator of all that. Interpol has said that this will happen over a weekend. Also, this is key to let you know who Biden's really working for. His camp tried to get Michael to hypothecate and breathe life back into the Federal Reserve, reversing everything Trump had done, putting us years away from ever getting this. And so he refused, and that's why we're up to the point that we're at now. And so I hope that helps people, understand a little bit more of the serious efforts that have gone into this along the way, and that a lot of people have made sacrifices in order to get us here.
Thank you very much for that. So, where are we about now with the salaries and the budgets? Because you said that they were going to be paid in signed the contracts. They were going to have a budget. But you said that never happened, and it was going to happen this week. But have we seen anything like that?
It's my understanding. Are you talking about Iraq?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. It's my understanding that there are contractors that we know who are getting paid at a higher rate on their cards. It's not physical cash, but it's my understanding that the amounts put on those contractors' cards is at a higher rate. And that's causing some conflict over there because some of the people are starting to find out that that's what's happening. I think we talked off air a little bit that I can't verify this, and I don't like to talk about things that I'm not certain of. There's rumor that, as Charlie had mentioned, that there, and I've heard that other places, that there was one-to-one going on in small pockets in Iraq. But as I mentioned to you, I personally don't have any verification of that. I can't find anyone personally that over there that is getting that. And I know the CBI has not changed anything. And they've also stated that they won't change anything until this budget is approved. Well, the budget's approved. It's been approved for months. We know the rate's going to be $3.71, but it could vary a few cents, but that's basically, and I've heard as high as $5.71, but I know it won't be less than that. And so that's not the issue, and we're not certain. If you follow the story that they're giving, and even one of my guys on the ground, I wrote it all down, but it was basically just a bunch of minor conflicts over different groups within the parliament. I want this and I want that, just like we do here. But that's not really the issue. The real issue is they're waiting on, and they admitted that once in an article, that they're waiting on the U.S. Treasury to give them the go-ahead. And as I've stated before, that is controlled from servers in Houston, Texas. And so they'll go as soon as we tell them to, and I don't know why we're not. I don't have contacts at that level. Well, I do have access to people in the Treasury, and they've all unified. I have contact with like maybe 7 different banks across the country that are involved in this, and they've all been put on alert. They were supposed to be watching, ready to go this weekend Texas, however, was not. And like I said, it's all going to kick off from here. And so until they go in, I don't get too excited.
Well, yeah, the $1 million question is, when is it going to happen? When are the currencies going to revalue? For those who are new to this and for those who are newly awakened and they're wondering, when is this going to happen? That's the $1 million question. That is a top secret military answer. We have no idea. But you know what, Rod?
What we can do is follow what has happened. And the one thing we do know is that the funds for the bonds at higher tiers than we are now in place. And we also know that the paymasters all around the world have been put in place. They're ready where they're supposed to be in their various countries around the world. We also know that the group of the Chinese elders who had a location in California that they just used to stay at when they were over here, and some stayed here, they've all been redistributed around the world to the various key points. I think there's about 7 of them. Mm-hmm. And they are in place and ready to go. So the money's in place, the people are in place. The only question is why?
I think I might not. I mean, I'm probably wrong. I don't know, but this is just my opinion. The reason why I think that it hasn't happened yet is because there's been a delay. Trump was supposed to be inaugurated on January, but I believe that there may have been a Chinese threat, according to my sources. And that's why we're seeing Biden in the House, to keep the American people safe from the threat that was received from China. And I think that there is another option, another variable, another plan by the military, like they do. They've got everything planned out. And I think, like you said, they're ready to revalue. Everything's in place, but it's not common sense for something like that to happen under the Biden administration, because he would get all the credit. So it's fair to say that he has to be out, Trump has to be back in, and then it has to go, because Trump has to get the credit for it. That's what I think.
To clarify, you're talking about the Chinese CCP.
Yeah.
Not the Dragon family elders that are the good guys that are on the side.
No. The Communist Party. Absolutely. Right. Yeah.
I wish we had more intel on that. I don't. Now, we did hear that one of the reasons the inauguration didn't take place was because of threats in various cities around our country that there were going to be, like bombs go off and stuff. And they was in place, and our people supposedly found them if he had gone through with it. And so that was one of the reasons that back off took place. But that was 3 months ago. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know what the current situation is.
Well, again, we're in a war. We're in a war of information. So it's very difficult for the people to grasp what's going on, because the elites, the good elites, and then you've got the bad elites, they're trying to fool each other. They're trying to confuse each other. But I've got two independent sources that told me the same thing about that. One of them told me that there was an obstacle, so they had to let Biden be inaugurated because there was a danger threat. And then another one said to me that there was a threat from the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. So they had to delay things, and there's delays. But I believe that you're right. The currency revaluations are ready to go. They're in place, but it won't happen under a Biden administration, because he would then get the credit for it. And that can't happen. It has to happen properly under a Trump administration. That's how I understand it. And that's what the closest logic that I have with the information that I have at hand.
Well, if that's accurate, we're a ways away.
Sorry?
I said, if that's accurate, then we're a ways away, because I don't see him coming back in. Now, I did hear there's supposed to be a lot of news pop this coming week. One thing we knew this weekend was that our good guys in the military was able to take out Cabal satellite systems. And then that those solar, what we thought were meteors, were actually the satellites burning up on reentry.
Shall I tell you what's killing us? It's what's killing us and the patriots who are listening is that we don't know the dates. We don't know when. We don't know if. We don't know, is it happening? Is it not happening? There's so much confusion. Sometimes we feel great. We've got some news, and the next day it's like, oh, you know, the inauguration wasn't good. You know what I mean? We go up and down. Now, I think if we knew, if Flynn said to us, General Flynn, hypothetically, if he said to us, the good guys are in control, it's going to happen, and it's going to happen, for an example, he said 1 year down the line, as long as I know it's happening, I'm happy to wait. So I don't think it's the time. I think we need to know that it's happening, and I believe it is happening. But I think that what's killing us is us not knowing anything, not even dates. Do you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a constant source of frustration. I was actually believing this time that when they said they were going to vote on Saturday in Iraq at 1 p.m., that they were that definitive that it was pretty much a done deal. And now I'm hearing, no, it's going to get postponed. They put out articles on Friday. It said everything from, yes, we're going to vote, to we may vote later, to it could take 4 more years for this to get put through, which is poppycock. But and every country that's revalued has always told them it wasn't going to happen within 24 to 48 hours before it happened. And so there's always that propaganda that they put out, and that's happened in every country that's ever done it. And so you just, it's very difficult to pick and choose what to believe.
No, absolutely, definitely. And they're even trying to look, these dates where, you know, we're told it may happen, they're probably for 2 reasons. It's either to confuse the deep state, and it could be both reasons together working simultaneously. And it could even mean that the elites, the good elites, they want to see who they can trust. So they tell their people, you know, it's going to happen on this day. It's not really going to happen when they tell them that, but they see where the leaks come from, you know, and maybe it could be a test to see who they can trust for other internal operations that they're doing. So they maybe, you know.
We do know they wrapped up a bunch within last week when they told them it was going to happen last weekend. And apparently a lot of people tried to move money really fast and to, you know, take advantage of that. And they caught them.
You see? Yeah. So, and also the deep state, they're trying to stop from us buying dinar, Vietnamese dong, Zims. You can't buy them anywhere. You know, you can buy maybe 1 or 2 on eBay, but it's very, very hard to find them. You go to a currency exchange shop, and you can't buy them. They say we don't sell them anymore because of COVID. You know, so I just wanted to let people know.
That's a new one.
Yeah, because of COVID. Can you believe it? So I just wanted to let people know, if you do want to buy some, you can buy some from nasara.shop. I will leave the link below in the description, and they ship internationally as well. I've bought some from them before, and I've received them. I received mine within 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. It takes a bit long because they're quite busy, but yeah, I received mine and I was very happy with mine. So it's the only place that I know that are doing it right now. So yeah, so I just wanted to put
I did get my stimulus check this weekend. I'm always one of the last ones to get one. I was the last one in my family to get one, but I finally got it.
You got it, yeah?
And the thing that I'm so excited about, and the wonderment of helping out the American public, you know, by creating all those additional fiat dollars to finishing off the Federal Reserve. I mean, that was just that one stimulus alone was a $2 trillion package. You know, I can remember, I'm old enough to remember when our debt wasn't more than that world, you know, in the whole country. But now we're just adding on. Okay, well, we added on 1.4 trillion a few months ago, and then a few weeks ago, another 1.6 or so. Now it's 2 trillion. And it's just like, you know, bubblegum money. But what should get the people, they're so excited because they got a little bit extra change in their pocket. That amounted, Nick, to 9% of the total $2 trillion package. 9%, folks, went to us in the United States. Where'd the other 91% go? You got the answer for that? I do.
To other countries?
All the communist sympathizer countries that support Biden's New World agenda. That's where the other 91% went. And you and I are stuck with the tax bill for that. By the way, you're supposed to have found out if I have to pay my taxes June 15th or not. Because right now I'm having to save all that stimulus money to pay them.
Yeah, I understand. You know, Rod, I want to ask you before I forget, because I've been meaning to ask you this, and I forgot. Now, when the currency revaluations happen, how long will we have until we've exchanged all our currencies? Is there a window of 30 days, 3 months? I don't know. Or can we just go, or is it whenever it happens, we can go at our own time? Now, the reason why I'm asking this is because there are people that might have loads of dinars, and they might decide that they only want to cash in half of it, you know, because they might want to cash the other half maybe 5 years down the line. Well, what do you say about that?
I wouldn't hold it any 5 years. That's an absolute no. But as far as taking advantage of contract rates, I'd say I'm answering two questions at once. One is, how long do I have to get my fiat money converted? And I'm hearing about 30 days on that. And like I said in my report, if you have money in your accounts, it'll be converted automatically. So it'll automatically be, 1-to-1 gold dollar back for what you had in your accounts. But to get back to the currency side, the contract rates are very temporary. And so if you're going to ask for them, you can, I would get in there as quickly as possible. They are saying that when the street rate comes out on the dinar, for example, that it may come out at a little less than what we initially expect, but it's expected to go up after that. And then once the rush happens from all the people jumping on the bandwagon, just like the stock market, it'll come back down to a more normalized rate. None of that matters if you're taking advantage of the contract rates. You get in there and get your business done, you'll get the higher rate anyway. So why would you wait when you could have more than that now? That doesn't make any sense to me. I'm going to do the math. I mean, why would you hold out for $15 when you could get 28? I mean, who does that make sense to? Some people said they don't want to do it because the NDA is stricter. The only thing the NDA is really about is you can't talk about what you exchanged for. You can't discuss the rate that you got. And if they find out you did that, yeah, they'll freeze your account.
Do you know what? Do you know what confuses me a lot, Rod? And I want to be very honest with the listeners too about this. If we're going into a free world, why the NDA? Who are we hiding from? Why can't it just be open? What's the big secret?
Well, it's to stop being a run and lawsuits on the banks. They're protecting themselves, and ultimately they're protecting you, because it's really nobody's business what you've got. I mean, I guarantee you, you've never heard me discuss how much I've got of any of the currencies or how much I expect to make off of them. That's really none of your business, as much as I love you. and I hope everyone else would have that same attitude. I've been in financial services for 35 years, and I used to make the joke. I said, people will tell you about their sex lives before they'll tell you about the money. And that really is pretty accurate.
True.
So the purpose of the NDA on the rate is they don't want your neighbor that had a few and heard about it on, through some source. And then he goes in and goes into the teller and he says, here, I've got this. What can you do for me? And they give him a street rate of 371 or 571 or whatever it comes out at. And versus, I went into a private banker and negotiated my deal privately, and I signed off on $28.50 for a contract rate. And then my neighbor finds out that I got $23 per dinar more than he got. you know, what's he going to do? He's going to be mad at me, and he's going to raise Cain with the bank saying that he got cheated. Well, he didn't get cheated. He just got what the international public is going to get. You know, it's not our job to educate the entire world as to what's going on. These were private deals that were arranged between China and the U.S. Treasury for those rates so that they could take advantage of the oil contracts that they missed out on initially. And that's why they're doing the same thing with Vietnamese dong. Now, I could read you. I don't know, how are we doing on time?
Well, I'll be honest with you. We are running out of time. About another 10, 15 minutes.
But I'm just going to say in brief. I mean, I could give you a long dissertation on what sources are saying is going on as far as going into the bank and you know, what you can expect and what rates they're going to give you based on your projects and all of this kind of thing. And then and some are saying, well, if you've got Zim, you don't get a contract rate on the currencies. And they seem to be very specific as to how they're breaking that down. And if we had more time, I could go through it with you. But the bottom line is, I'm not saying they're not being honest. I'm saying they're telling the story that they know. Well, I'm telling you that we have contacts with 7 different banks in 7 different states across the country. We know people who have gone in already and made their arrangements. They've got SQRs. They're waiting for safekeeping receipts. They're waiting for this to happen so that they can actually receive those funds. Some of them did actually get money, but that's on the bank. That's not on the Treasury, or, you know, that's just because the bank knew those people and they felt good enough to go ahead and do it with them. But my point was, the rates they negotiated were all high. Now, granted, they had a lot of currency, and I mean a lot, but some of them I wouldn't say were whales. And the deal is, they got contract rates on their dinar, they got contract rates on their dong, and they got, in a couple of cases, as high as 60 cents on their Zim. Not one humanitarian project was offered by any of them to get those rates. And so what I'm saying is, there's other sources out there that are telling you have to have the humanitarian programs to get certain rates, specifically with the Zim. And yet, none of the people that we know of did that. And so we won't know for a fact until you're sitting in front of your banker. And understand too that depending on which bank, they all got different contracts with the Treasury. So each bank's going to have different abilities to negotiate with you, because Bank A has a better deal than Bank B does. And so Bank B can't give you as much as Bank A could, because they're not getting as much as Bank A is getting. And so there's that to contend with.
Yeah, Rod, basically, you know, I'm suspecting that when the revaluations, you know, happen, by then the banks will be under a QFS system, because the way they are operating today, it's cabal. They've been, you know, they're corrupt. They've been lying to us. They've been conning us for hundreds of years. So can we trust the banks? And once we revalue within those 30 days window that we have with an NDA, how do we know that our money is not going to be wiped out of our accounts?
Well, the good thing is, as you just stated, you answered your own question. The QFS will be in control of that transition or transfer of those funds. You're no longer, your money, in other words, is no longer actually at that tier 1 or tier 2 bank that you're involved with. It's directly through the Treasury and right into the QFS system. And so 100% of it is being monitored from the instant that you put it in there. We've never had that before. And so, yes, they were criminal. And I've said on previous shows, the top 6 banks here in the U.S. stole hundreds of millions off the top of that's probably generous, probably more than that. But in the programs, and I hope most of that has been recovered by now. I have no doubt they would attempt to do the same thing on the currencies. And so, yes, we would have every reason to doubt them. And it comes from the top all the way down. They're all crooked. And you remember in my report I read you, Biden was trying to get Cotrell to divert those gold funds away from the QFS system and back into the Federal Reserve. Thank God for people like Michael that are honest, honorable men and cannot be swayed. That was exactly the way Trump was. And that's why he had so many assassination attempts on him already. And not one of those, interestingly enough, was ever reported in the media.
The other thing was, Rod, was let's say somebody has, you say that we've got the 30-day window to exchange our currencies. Now, what if I decide that I want to exchange half of the amount of currencies that I have in the first week of the 30 days, and then I exchange the other half on the third week of the 30 days, just so I know how the procedure works, or, I know that my money is safe, or I've invested the first half of my money into humanitarian projects or help family or help myself or something like that. Can I do that, or do you have to do it all in one go within the 30 days and just do it once?
Well, you can do anything you want, Nick, but I'm saying, why would you want to? Because the thing is, those contract rates are going to disappear. And so if you wait to do that second half later, you're looking at doing street rates. And that's going to be significantly less than what you could have done up front. And here's the other thing. If you're only negotiating part of your money, you're taking away 50% of your negotiation ability. It's like, here's, you bring in all of it together and go, here, guys, here's what we're dealing with. Here's what I've got for you. What can you do for me? Well, if you take half of what's available off the table, you just cut your negotiation ability by 50% because they're interested in the interest they can make on your money. And, I could do an entire show just on fractional banking and sweep accounts and the money that they make off of those per night through the Federal Reserve. That's been going on for eons, and they make a minimum of anywhere from a couple of percent up with more than 20. There's been cases where they were making 30+% during high inflation periods per night.
Right.
And so, to ask for 15 or 20% return on your money that you're leaving in their bank, obviously they're going to be more influenced to make a better agreement with you if they're controlling a larger piece of the pie. And right now I'm hearing they're recommending, at was one point, that upwards of 30% be left with their bank to negotiate those interest rate returns. And you can do those in kind of like a CD type of arrangement where you can do it for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years, whatever, and make it. I would probably do mine in the 3 to 5 year range and then make it renewable, along with other things I would like to negotiate for with the bank as they have opportunities that come along. Does that help?
It helps. It does help. But the other thing I wanted to say was, you talk about contract rates that are going to be much higher than the rates that everyone else would get. But to me, that doesn't make sense because Trump says we should all be on a level playing field because that's the only way we can compete fairly. That's what he said. So I'd imagine, this is my theory on it all, is that the QFS will come in, all the banks will be cleaned up, all the currencies will go on more or less one for one level playing field, and you can go into the bank as you please and revalue your currencies.
Well, you may be, what you're stating that Trump said is right. I'm not sure your interpretation was. What he was saying was that all countries worldwide need to be on equal parity on a one-to-one basis. And that will be the case once everything is come out. People get excited about some of the currencies going up. What they don't think about is other currencies are going to be going down to make that equalization take place. And the U.S. is one of those countries.
And the UK.
So, people don't realize, yes, your dollar is backed for the first time by gold, but because of that, it's until this point, it's had an inflated ratio since 1971. And so we very likely will go back to pricing to what it was in that time. So instead of paying 50 grand for a car, you're going to be back looking at $5 grand for a car, I remember My dad's Bonneville was 1965 was $3,000. The 71 Bonneville was a little over $4,000. 1971. Now I do remember a Cadillac in 1967 was 7,000. We walk into a Cadillac dealer today and see what it's going to
be. we are running out of time, but I've got one more question to say to you. Is when the currencies revalue to the true currency, when they go up, shouldn't we see why? I still don't understand the contracts. Shouldn't we see it on the Forex like we do with every currency like we can today on our phones and the websites?
No, you won't. You'll see what the normal rate is. Okay? Because the contract rates are exactly what they say they are. They're by contract. It's not something, it's a private agreement between China and our U.S. Treasury. And whatever deals they made with other countries, I don't know. And you're not even going to get that unless you ask for it. And the people, there's other sources out there saying, well, you got to have this bullet point of humanitarian programs outlined in order to get that. All I'm saying is the people we know that didn't have any of that, and they still got them anyway because they asked. Now, as an example, another person went in and made his deal and then talked to his buddy, which is why you have NDAs. And the buddy says, oh, well, why didn't you get the contract rate? And the guy goes, well, they didn't offer it to me. And so the guy calls his banker back and says, hey, why did you not give me the contract rate? He goes, oh, I didn't know you knew about those. You should have said something, because now the deal's done and you can't reverse it.
Well, you know what? We need to do.
Squeaky wheel gets the grease.
we need, as soon as they come out, we need to do a show and inform the listeners about it and help them, guide them through how to do the contracts, how to do it all. But I really,
ask for it. It's not a big deal.
Sorry?
You just ask for it. It's not a big deal.
From who?
From your person. You have your private. If you have your appointment, when you go through and do the 800 numbers or the link to the 800 numbers, and you get your appointment with that person, they're going to divert you to whatever location is serving you based on what you've got. And then once you get in there, you just simply ask your banker, here's what I've got, and what can you do for me? Let him talk first. First one to speak loses. And then say, well, here's what I understand is available. Always be professional. Don't be demanding. If you be demanding, I promise you, they're going to kick your booty right out the front door. They don't have to take it, and they won't. But if you be professional and courteous and respectful and explaining what you want and why you think you deserve that, they'll work with you. And then they may even say, hey, I can't do that. They go, well, why don't we conduct an experiment? Why don't you put that rate in your computer and try to run it and see if it'll run? And because we've had that example, we've had people, the bankers, that said, no, that won't work. And then he talked them into putting it in, and it went right through. So, be astute. Do your homework.
Absolutely. Well, Rod, it's been fantastic. And listeners, I'm going to leave Rod's Twitter account if you've got any questions, that you would like to ask.
I didn't get to answer the ones they already asked.
Oh, man. We are running out of time.
Okay, guys, to my people that I promised I would answer those questions, my deepest apologies. It's all his fault.
Can we go through a few questions now?
Oh, I didn't think you had time. Okay. Now I have not.
We'll stretch it to another 5 minutes.
Okay. I have not even. Let's see. I haven't even read these. Let's see. Once you read now. Okay. The question is, once the revaluation starts, how long will I have to call the 800 number to set up my appointment to bring in my Zim note? I ordered the $100 million Zim note from Nasara Shah in London, and it's on its way. as of March 21st, but I don't have an expected date of delivery. Right now, it left England, but has not been acknowledged in the U.S. yet. Okay, so who am I talking? Jill, sorry. Here's the deal on that. I wouldn't tarry as far as going on into the bank without your Zoom note that you've ordered. What I would do is take your receipt in with you for that, or show proof of that purchase, and then show that to the banker and include that in your negotiation, because you don't want to risk missing out on a contract rate with any other currency you may have in order to wait for this one. So I think they will work with you if you can show proof that that order was made. Okay, they've got one knocked out of the way. Do you think this has to be started before April 1st? Well, I know that a lot of the fiscal years for a lot of countries around the world that are involved in this begin April 1st. So to me, it only makes sense, but a lot of this entire program doesn't make sense. So who's to say that you should follow something that makes sense? We know that there are a lot of things going to happen this week. We don't know the details of that, but and the fact that Iraq didn't get their vote done this weekend, that kind of scares me. It means that something up the line that we don't have the answer to is holding this up, and I don't know how long they could hold it up. But logically, it would make sense to begin by April 1st. Yes, there's a lot of spiritual reasons. You know, we've got Easter involved in there, and your numerology guys will tell you that this makes good sense. So I think we're right there at the doorstep. Okay.
Rod, I've got one more. I've got that question from your other answer that you answered about showing proof that you made the purchase of the currencies. A lot of people have currencies and they don't have receipts. You know, they go on holiday, they come back, they've got leftover currencies. What do they do?
Well, if you got the currencies with you, you don't need a receipt.
That's what I mean. So they're all right with the receipt.
I was referring to this lady that had ordered hers, but it hadn't come in yet.
Oh, from Nasara.shop?
Yeah.
Oh no, it's coming. They're slightly on a delay. They've got a very big volume, so please bear with them. They do take a bit long, especially if they're ordering abroad, overseas, and give them about 2 to 3 days to reply to your emails. They've got loads of emails, so I do apologize. It's actually my fault because I've been trafficking everyone onto Nasara.shop from here to buy currencies. And I've been giving them a big, lots of people.
Okay. And then I've got all these people. Oh my gosh. None of these people are all from you because they're not my normal followers. My normal followers are on a different page. These are people that I've never had any contact with before. Okay. So this is Jessica. Hi, Rod. Can you please confirm Mr. Fleming saying the RV starts April 1st as the World Court ruled? Thank you and greetings, Jess from the Netherlands. Well, hi, Jess. Nice to make your acquaintance. Yeah, I did hear that from Mr. Fleming. That was one of the other reports I was going to read off today as an option to consider. I certainly, and I did see that. The World Court did make that ruling. And so, fingers crossed, prayers up. Hope nothing else interferes with it. Okay.
Rod, one more question. I'm gonna have. We're running out of time, okay? And I'm gonna have to go.
Okay. What? Oh, you want me? Okay. Well, that one's no good. Are you confident about tomorrow's budget vote? That didn't happen. So,
Rod, thank you so much. And we'll catch up again soon with more questions and answers. And yeah, you have a lovely day.
Okay, let me call this out real quick and I'll drop it. So this goes out to Nick, Tim, Dave, Elmer, Louise, LB, Jason, Luke, Nikki, Abraham, Eileen, Mr. Nugent, Rob, Stephen, Natron, Mark, Geronimo, Allison, Dino Dog, Snoopy, Hanley, Mo Warbucks or something like that. Rita, Nermeen, Jean, Adam, Boothville, Slick Dog, Blue, Dummy, Dan Baker, I shouldn't have said that, Missy, Carrie Ann, Jonathan, Janie, Tracy, Santana, Caraville, James, Wayne, Michelle, Laura, Nigel, Caesar, Mayo, Lucinda, Robin, Corey, and Rhonda again, Brenda and Brian, High Energy Girl, Andrew Bell, Texan, Dean, excuse me, Greg and Earth Shift. I will do my best after my daughter's baby shower this evening before I go to bed to try to respond to the rest of you.
Okay, guys. Well, thank you so much, Rod, and we'll catch up again very soon, okay?
Okay, it's been a pleasure as always, and say hello to Mr. Jacko for me.
I will, and I've got him after now, so look forward to my interview with Michael Jacko, where we may be speaking about remote viewing. And Rod Still, thank you so much, and we'll catch up again very soon with the currency updates.
People are asking when this will air.
Sorry?
People are asking when this will air, when you'll post it.
Oh, when will it air? It will be today.
Okay. There you go, folks, for all those that were asking.
Okay. Thank you. You take care.
All right.
God bless. Bye-bye.